Get ready.
So today I have with me one of my teachers, my mentors, my oldest friends in the hypnosis profession. It's Drake Eastburn. He has, I think, 10 plus books written, 2 of which are already and have been for a long time required reading for all of my students. And just a super guy. So welcome, Drake, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And that's a nice introduction. You know, when I first met you, Lynsi and I both said the same thing. We go, no, there's a gal that's motivated. You see a lot of people in this business, but not many of them have the kind of motivation you do, and that's a rare quality.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I like to get things done, though, definitely. I'm passionate about hypnosis, but I've had some great teachers, and you know, you and Lynsi have both been teachers of mine, and still remain to be. And you know, I've now become colleagues, and you know, but I have a story about you, Drake, that I have never shared with you. That you know, I've kind of been waiting for the right moment, and I think this is it. So back, I think it must have been back in 2006, because I remember I was very pregnant with my second son at the time. You were over in Manchester teaching. And I did a course with you about working with elite athletes. And I know working with athletes is something that you've done for many years. And we're going to touch on the performance side of that in just a moment. But there's a really lovely story to tell you about this. So a few years later, in 2011, I was approached by the British Olympic team just to see if I could do something with a couple of their athletes. And the way it worked, London 2012 Olympics, were that to get tickets to go and see, you either had to be very, very rich, or you were put into a lottery, and they kind of allocated tickets around the country. And I put in for everything because my son at the time, my eldest son, was desperate to go and see the Olympics. And basically, I entered the lottery, as everybody else did, didn't get anything, as most of us didn't, and then ended up doing this work with some of the British Olympic team. And basically, I got paid with 2 tickets to go and spend a day down at the Olympic Park, see some hockey matches, and you basically helped my son's dream come true. And he still, to this day, has the ticket on his wall. And he's 15 now, describes it as one of the greatest days in his life. So thank you for me. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that. That was on that very day.
That's great.
You couldn't get a much more British looking picture than that, really, could you? So, you know, it's one of those things that I've, you know, keep meaning to tell you. And I just thought, aha, I can tell you now very publicly so everybody knows. Just how effective that was, because that course that we did that day in Manchester, that's where it led me, was working with some of the Olympic athletes for the London 2012 Olympics. So there you go. How's that for an endorsement?
That is great. You know, Sebastian Coe was big in putting that Olympics together. I don't know if you know, he was a big-time marathoner back in the day, same time when I was running. I was an ultra-distance runner, so I was pretty familiar with him and what he was doing. And actually I worked with all the U.S. cycling team that year, all the male part, and one of the female, but I worked with all the male cyclists that year.
There you go. So yeah, busy guy. I know your list of teams and types of sports and athletes that you work with and have worked with is pretty endless. You know, which, you know, for me, one of the things about people that teach is people that do. You know, when they actually do what they say they do, or they do what they say they teach, rather, and then they teach what we do. And I know for you, that has been a real kind of cornerstone of the way that you've taught things. It's all been about the things that you do with your clients and have done for many, many, many years. So it's important, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It makes you better. You know, you know, I say, you know, my writing makes me a better teacher and a better hypnotherapist, but my hypnotherapy makes me a better writer and a better teacher, and my teaching makes me a better writer and a better therapist. You know, so all those things kind of help me be better at everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's that kind of positive feedback loop, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So today we're going to have a chat about performance. I mean, performance, whether it's exam performance, music performance, sports performance, sexual performance, the principles are very much the same, aren't
Sure.
they?
You bet.
So tell us kind of like your philosophy with working with performance to improve performance. What kinds of things do you find yourself working with the most?
Well, doesn't matter what kind of performance it is, but I always spend a lot of time talking with the individual, getting some history, background, find out what everything is. I don't like have a set routine I do with each client. You know, it's like I kind of tailor everything to the needs of the individual. So no matter what they're working on. But one of my philosophies is if you've ever done something right once, you can do it right again. You know, it's like, because there's a model in there somewhere for how that works, and we tap into that model, we can revivify it, we can bring it back to life, and away we go.
Absolutely. I think, you know, how much do you think in terms of, in terms of physical performance, say with running, for example? I know you're kind of a long distance runner in the past. So how much of that is in the mind? Obviously, if your body's not up to it and you've not trained, but what's the difference between somebody that believes they can do it and somebody that doesn't, say, who are in a similar physical shape, for example?
Yeah. Well, there are advantages. I mean, certain body types and things like that, it's an advantage. You know, for me, I didn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be an ultra distance runner. You know, it's just, um, I started running to work. I didn't live that far from where I worked. Didn't seem like made a good sense to fire up the car every day. So I'd run to work and back. And then also, it was part of, I had migraines early on, and I was determined to get around that. And I'd wake up on Saturday morning and I'd have a migraine, and I'd go out and run until it went away. I was just going, I'm not going to let this stop me. And I go out and I'd run until it stopped. And I mean, it would be excruciating at times, but you know what? I wouldn't let it stop me. And so pretty soon I was getting to be a good runner. And I got rid of the migraines mostly with hypnosis, but the running really helped a lot. And
Yeah.
So pretty soon the running became a passion, and you know, I'm an introvert, so it was something I could do, and I didn't need a team sport or something like that, and it
Mm.
worked out really well. But I'll say it was the most profound experience in my life, you know, because it is a meditation. It is a hypnosis. I mean, you get into this state, and I could just stay there for hours, and it actually helped me to survive a very unhealthy marriage. And when my knees went out and I had to have surgery and stuff, I had to kind of face the crappy relationship that I was in and move on with my life. But yeah, but it was all very mental stuff. It's
Mm.
huge.
That's very interesting, isn't it? And then of course that's then led to, I guess, lots of positive things in your life. So obviously leaving that relationship, and you and Lynsi are well known as being um hypnosis is the couple, I think, a dynamic couple. And you've done great things both individually and together. Certainly in terms of, I mean, Hypnosis Denver, you're your practice has been established for a long time now, hasn't it? And I know you have
Yeah.
other therapists there, and you've done a lot of training there. You travel the world training together,
Mm-hmm.
teaching all kinds of things. Of course, performance, is one of those things. But that's some achievement, isn't it? So maybe your knees going with the turning point for all of that.
I've had that thought. It's like I would have kept going down that road, and that wouldn't be a horrible road, but it did force me to explore other avenues, and it's life changing. I don't regret anything that's happened,
No.
and I remember when my mother was still alive, and I said, "Oh, my knees were bothering me." She says, "I bet you wish you hadn't done all that running." I said, "No." I said, "Every time I feel an ache or a pain, it reminds me of all the stuff that I did." I said, "I wouldn't want to be some new car sitting on blocks that looks all shiny and never went anywhere." I'd rather have some of those aches and pains.
Absolutely. Well, it tells our story, isn't it? I know when, I work a lot with body positivity, actually. And one of the things, people often point out is the lumps and the bumps and the scars and the aches and the pains. And, I said, actually, that's how your body tells your story. And if
Yeah.
you look at, I don't know, stretch marks on the belly of this is where I house my children,
Mhm.
all of these things, or the scar on your knee. I got that when I fell over at mile 24 running, I don't know, the
Yeah.
Colorado Marathon or something.
Yeah.
Then they can be turned into very positive reminders, can't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the longest distance you ever ran?
Well, I ran just in training, I ran around 30 miles a lot of times. I ran the Pikes Peak Marathon a number of times, and it's 28 point some miles. And it is, you start at about 6,000 feet and you go to over 14,000 feet, and then you turn around and come back on narrow trails. So it's,
Okay.
you're running over rocky terrain and stuff. People have been seriously hurt doing this thing, but you've accomplished something once you've done that.
So this is the absolute prize example of walking your talk, isn't it, or running your talk, in terms
Yeah,
of understanding the kind of mindset that's needed for elite performance. I guess that is, isn't it?
yeah.
So what for you were the kind of the key takeaways that you learn in terms of performance that transpose over into your hypnosis practice now?
Well, even back then, see, I'd started using hypnosis in the early 70s. And when I was running, I was making my own hypnosis recordings and stuff to aid me in that. I was really playing that mental game. And I had these big reel-to-reel tape recordings and stuff that I was using. But if I wasn't out there running, I was using those, and I was doing everything that would make me better at what I was doing.
So I guess that's kind of that mindset of self-belief, isn't it? Is that there's always room for improvement. You can always do more,
Yeah,
and the belief that your body can do that. Because I think whatever kind of performance you're looking at, whether it's kind of elite distance running, whether it's belief that you can pass exams, whether it's performing in a concert or acting, whether it's sexual performance,
great.
it's that belief, isn't it, that kind of
Yeah,
underpins all of those things.
yeah. I'll tell you a little interesting kind of a story. There was a particular trail that I used to run a lot. Uh, it was called Dakin Road, and it's really just a fire service road. It's very kind of steep and rugged terrain. And when you're running at high altitude, when you're running on a trail, even as steep and as tough as it might get, sooner or later there's a place where it's going to give you a little break, you know, and you're going to be able to kind of regroup and keep your breath going and like that. But going up this trail, I keep thinking it's going to give me a break. It's going to give, and it wouldn't, and eventually I'd stop and I'd walk a ways and then take off again. And one day, I made it all the way through that section of the trail, and from then on, it never got me mentally. You know, I mean, it's like I could make it. You know, and that's kind of, you know, that's a good metaphor for other things in our life. You know, it's like you just got to go that little bit more, and eventually you'll make it.
I guess, you know, that's also, you know, a great example of why things like future pacing is important within our profession as well, isn't it? You know, it's taking through, not only giving people the belief that they can do something, but actually taking them through the process. So, you know, they can see themselves at the finish line or winning that race or having great sex or whatever it may be. And allowing them to kind of become fully immersed in what that feels like, because then they know what it feels like. So it's easier to kind of keep going, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like, you know, when it comes to sex, what I find a lot of clients, you know, have something has changed. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's things like that. Like sometimes there's a breakup of a relationship. You know, we're no longer with this person, but mentally, we made a commitment to that person years ago. Or even though they're no longer part of our life, we still feel that connection, and we're not moving ahead. You know, we're not moving ahead like we should be. Or there's sometimes like we can be conditioned away from it. Like if and I've had this happen to quite a few times, but a guy go, you know, he get a little frisky, and she goes, not now, I got a headache, or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And if that keeps happening, you know, it's like the rat goes down the tunnel looking for the cheese. And if he keeps going down that tunnel looking for the cheese, and there's no cheese, eventually the rat gives up. And now she decides, okay, let's get with it. And the mind's going, there's no cheese down that tunnel, and nothing happens. And then she drags him into my office and go, fix him. Well, you already fixed him. You gotta throw the rat a chunk of cheese every once in a while, or he's gonna stop looking down the tunnel.
It's very true, actually. You know, one of the things that I often see is that the wrong person often actually is sat in the chair. So, or the person that takes responsibility for a sexual issue, actually it's not always been their issue. It's about how somebody else is reacting to them, and it's kind of reinforcing a negative behavior, which is then about belief and mindset again, which then affects performance, and we get back into this kind of negative loop, isn't it? You know, mindset can affect us positively, but also very detrimentally, can't it? You know, if we don't believe we can do something, it's you know, that has quite a profound effect on every kind of performance, isn't it? You know.
Sure. Sometimes people get they get caught up in life.
Yeah.
We have kids. We're going to the soccer game, and we're going to this thing, and we're going to that, and we forget about what brought us together in the first place. The romance gets put on the back burner, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh God, nothing works like it's supposed to, or there's not that inspiration there, and we need that. We lose that spontaneity, and we need that in our relationship, and we need to keep that going. A lot of times it's our romantic life that gets put on the back burner, and it's all about the kids and the business and all this kind of stuff, but we need that piece. We need to keep that connection going, or it's like one day the kids are off to college, and you look up from your bowl of Cheerios at this other person, you go, who the hell is that over there?
Yeah, that's the that's again something that I see a lot here. You know, when I work with couples, it's kind of like they don't even know who each other are anymore. You know, it's quite a scary thing. So so Drake, I know. I mean, there's so many things that we could talk about. I mean, your work is vast. I know you've got some projects coming out soon, haven't you, that are performance related that you're doing as a collaboration. That's on top of the books that you've already got. I mean, I've got to hand the Power Patter book, which I know is coming out on ebook soon. This is my kind of ancient copy that I've had for
Yeah.
a long time, which of course contains the no suggestion, which is still, in my view, one of the greatest modern day works of hypnosis, and I use it all the time in many different situations. This is another one of your books, The Power of the Past, which is required reading for every single one of my students. This is how I really started to understand working with regression. I think this is where it clicked for me, was when you taught me this, and
Yeah.
extensively.
Yeah.
But tell us a bit more about the books that you've got coming out, or the things, the projects that you're working on currently.
Well, right now, I have a book that's about to come out. As soon as we get done with the editing part, which is happening, and it's going to be called the Hypnotist Bible, and it's going to have a whole lot of stuff in there about hypnosis. So it should be interesting. I've been working on this book probably since 2008. So and I'm going, you got to finish this thing, But I got a lot of books that are sitting there on the back burner. I mean, I keep working on them here and there as things go along. And then there will be a couple of books on performance stuff that's going to be coming out real soon. Also, I'm in the middle of putting most of these books on audio, and two of them are about to come out real soon. The Power of the Past, I'm looking at doing a second edition of that. So, and amongst everything else I got going on, so we shall see. But one thing I have is tenacity, and eventually these projects get done.
They get done when they're ready to be done, essentially, I think.
Yeah.
It seems to be how it works in our profession. So if people want to find out a bit more on all the amazing work that you do, what's your website address? That's the one that
Okay. They can go to office@hypnodenver.com, or they can go to Drake@hypnodenver.com. A lot of things. If you go to office@hypnodenver.com, my office manager can handle most of those things. It might be a little slower if you try to get a hold of me directly, but those are probably the best ways to go about it.
Okay.
And my office manager, she's a good girl, and she's trained by me, so she knows most of the things that people need to know.
And do you have all your like trainings and just a lot of information on hypnodenver.com?
Yeah, you can go to our website, whatever that is. I'm horrible about these things, but if you just Google us, you can Google my name and it'll get you where you need to go.
Wonderful. Well, I know Lynsi and I were talking about maybe me coming over to teach at your school for a little
Great.
while.
That would be terrific.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be fun? So we'll get that organised maybe for 2020. I think that will be a good thing to do. I've not been to Colorado.
I'd love that. Yeah, we need something new and stimulating and like that, and get our students jazzed again.
So yeah, well that would be me.
Yeah, you would. Yes, that would definitely be you. Sex is always a topic that gets people's attention.
Mm.
Yeah, and I always tell people, you got a dull topic, just throw sex in there, because that always the tension.
Well, it's true though, isn't it? It's one of the most taboo subjects, and yet the one that everybody is absolutely fascinated by. And of course, it makes the world go round. It's it's really quite fundamental to most people's adult lives, isn't it? So
The statistics show us that couples who have a good sex life are the ones who do the best. If times are tough, those are the couples that survive. The ones that don't have a good sexual relations are the ones that tends to crumble.
yeah.
And so I always encourage that. It's like, it's too much trouble. It's like, you're not doing it right. You need to see Kaz.
Well, I would agree. So sadly, we're out of time. Thank you, Drake, so much. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show. As I said at the start, you have been a huge influence in my life and in the way that I do hypnosis and my confidence and how I operate as a hypnotist. So I thank you for that, as well as coming on the show today.
Well, I'm thrilled to have been an influence. Case, you bet.
Cool.
And it's a delight to talk to you and see you.
I know. Well, I will see you again soon, maybe in Colorado, if not before.
Indeed.
So if you're enjoying all the episodes of Trancing in the Sheets, then, we have got several episodes. We cover all different aspects of hypnosis, different aspects of life, and different aspects of sex. Also, if you're interested in training to be a sexual freedom hypnosis practitioner, and believe me, we need a lot more of you. There's a lot more clients out there than are people trained in working in sexual freedom, then drop me a line at www.sexualfreedomhypnosis.com, and we'll send out all the latest training dates to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Trancing in the Sheets. See you soon.